Hello everybody, this is Callum from Grid Talk Global here, and today we're here to discuss the 2025 drivers market. So, let's talk F1. Now I'm going to be honest with you, this wasn't originally supposed to be my first video for this account. I was originally going to do a video about the changes I would personally make to Monaco. But with Ocon leaving Alpine and many other drivers confirming their future way in advance before I thought they would be, I thought it would be a good time to discuss the 2025 drivers market and where I think everyone will end up, what the teams will look like at the end of the season, and what I think will happen to a few of the drivers that I don't think will be on the grid anymore. I want to quickly briefly mention Ferrari and McLaren and how I think their pairing will do next season. Obviously, we've got to talk about the big move that was Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari. I mean, a Hamilton-Leclerc drivers pairing is just probably the best pairing you can have on the grid right now. You've got Leclerc, who is experienced in that Ferrari car and seems to get more and more confident. Even just looking at this season, the consistency Leclerc has had with a much better car than he's used to, it's been absolutely unreal to see. And Lewis Hamilton is obviously one of the all-time greatest F1 drivers, and that pairing right there could be such a deadly pairing to have in the F1 industry. Then you have McLaren, two of probably future world champions in Piastri and Norris. Norris obviously getting his first win this season and Piastri getting his first podium at Monaco. I think this pairing will do absolutely excellent next season. Maybe not win the Constructors title, but I could definitely see many more podiums and wins for these two in the future. But let's talk about the actual 2025 drivers market, because none of the other teams actually have a full confirmed lineup yet, which is pretty scary to think about. We literally had the 2024 drivers market, which had no movements. That was like the first time I think in F1 history, or at least since like 1970, that had no movements in the drivers market, to suddenly go into 2025 where we're going to have about nearly every team change. So let's get started with the first thing we'll discuss, which is Red Bull. Now, I've seen a few rumours out there that's saying Max Verstappen is actually going to leave Red Bull along with Adrian Newey, all because of the Christian Horner allegations and all the issues behind the scenes at Red Bull. Apparently he might even jump ships to Mercedes, but no, that's definitely not going to happen, at least not for the 2025 season. Red Bull currently still the strongest car on the grid. Even though it's not by much, I still think Max Verstappen will not leave Red Bull, especially to a ship of Mercedes right now that seemingly are like the definite fourth best car on the grid, and I'm not even closing in on the top three cars right now. So Max is definitely firmly staying put as the #1 driver at Red Bull and probably the #1 driver on the grid. So who do I think is going to get the second seat at Red Bull? Now, there has obviously been a few names thrown out there. Tsunoda could possibly get a promotion. Carlos Sainz being the biggest name on the transfer market, being free next season somehow. But I don't think it'll be either of those two drivers. According to rumours and lots of latest leaks, Perez is going to be signing another one-year deal at Red Bull. And I know these are leaks and rumours, but I do think it's going to happen. I think Perez is going to keep his seat for at least one more season, and there's a few reasons for this. And as I recorded this video, look what's happened. Sergio Perez has confirmed to extend his contract at Red Bull. As you can see here, here's some of the details. He has signed a 2-year deal, which I was not expecting. So yeah, that's kind of why I've made this video now. A lot of moves are happening. I mean, I guess I was right. Yeah, I guess I was right about the prediction, but not about I thought he was only going to sign a 1-year deal, so yeah. Happy days, I got it right. I know obviously recent results, qualifying P18 and P11 in Imola and Monaco respectively, not even getting near podium points in recent races. It's been shocking for Perez the last few races. He's only 5th in the World Championship points, which is shocking for a guy in the Red Bull seat right now. But he's kind of doing his job. He's not fighting Max at all. He's picking up points where he needs to, okay, debatably. But he's doing his job, and it's a job that Red Bull wants someone to do. I think if they bring in someone like Carlos Sainz, I don't think he'll be comfortable doing that job. He'll want to win races. He'll want to fight for a world title victory. And they do not want that to happen to Max Verstappen, which is understandable. So, with that being said, I do think Perez is going to keep his seat at Red Bull. I think I've heard it's only going to be a 1-year deal, so he wanted a 2-year deal, but obviously due to recent performances, I've heard it's only going to be a 1-year deal. I think it's going to be a Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez lineup for Red Bull next year. Williams is actually quite an interesting team for next season. They are a team that are struggling this season. I know they just got points at Monaco, but they are a team that has struggled this season. I'm going to get it out the way. Logan Sargeant will not have his seat at Williams next season. Recent performances and performances last year is just consistently disappointing and disappointing and disappointing result after result. He's not been near Albon's level. He's not even been close to getting points. It's been a really shocker of a time for Logan Sargeant. And everyone knows Albon has just recently signed a contract extension at Williams on a multi-year deal, keeping there for at least the 2025 and 2026 season. I think there's a lot of options for Williams personally. I've been floating back and forth between a few names. Obviously with Ocon leaving, could he make the jump to Williams? I've heard even Sainz has been in advanced talk with Williams, but I'm not going to go with either of those two names. I think the name that I think will personally join Williams is Valtteri Bottas. Now obviously that might come as a shock for a few of you, but as you've seen, recent pictures has shown that Valtteri Bottas has actually been seen at the Williams garage just before, I believe, the Miami Grand Prix. Might be wrong on that, but correct me if I am. He was there for apparently a 15-minute meeting, and they are in quite close talks with Bottas for the last few weeks. He has a lot more experience than most of the current drivers on the F1 grid, and I believe that can come in handy coming into the new regulation changes in 2026, confirming an Albon and Bottas lineup. I'm going to make this section really quick. It is about Aston Martin. Obviously everyone knows that Alonso has signed a 2-year deal at Aston Martin, which is possibly his last ever contract for an F1 team. So, I wonder who's going to get the second seat at Aston Martin. See, there's a lot of options, really, of who I think it could be, but no, it's going to be Lance Stroll, let's be honest. That guy has an infinite contract glitch at Aston Martin because of the big guy up top. I mean, Stroll has recently just said he's very committed to the Aston Martin project, and that basically is all but confirmed he's staying at Aston Martin. 2026 could be an interesting situation. With Alonso only having 1 year left on this deal, they do need someone big to come in for Aston Martin. So maybe we can see a Stroll drop then for the 2026 regulation change, but no, I'm 99% sure it's not going to happen at the end of this season, so I think they're going to keep their driver lineup of Alonso and Stroll. Alpine and Ocon have obviously just announced that they have parted ways at the end of the 2024 season. I think everyone saw this coming, especially after the Monaco incident, and obviously many other incidents with Ocon has with his teammates. I think they want to solidify an actual driving pair, and I just don't think Ocon and Gasly were ever really going to work. So technically, Gasly's contract is also up at the end of the 2024 season, so technically both seats are up for grabs here. But with Ocon leaving, I can't see a world where they will also let Gasly leave the seat. I mean, Pierre Gasly actually beat Esteban Ocon last season. He had 62 points. I'm just looking at the graph here. He had 62 points and Ocon only had 58 points. I mean, obviously Alpine did struggle a bit last season, but it shows Gasly does have true potential. And we've already seen it before at AlphaTauri. So I think Gasly will become the main person at Alpine. You could argue that Ocon has been a better driver, but I don't think they need a better driver right now. I just think they need to get the team bloody sorted. I mean, it's been woeful to see how bad they've become. They've literally become a literal embodiment of what a tractor looks like. But who's going to get the other seat? I've been torn between two drivers, but I'm pretty certain I've settled on one now. And I'll tell you about the other option in a minute. But the person I believe is going to get that seat right now is Jack Doohan. I mean, he's been the reserve driver for Alpine this season and was scheduled apparently to replace Ocon at the Canadian Grand Prix. Obviously that's now been proven not right, but you know, he's there and thereabouts. There's a few reasons why I've gone with him. One, I think they need to have a youngster at last. I don't think they want the same situation with Piastri happening. Don't get me wrong, I don't think they're on the same level, but I don't think they want the same sort of situation of letting a good potential youngster go. I also believe that Fabian wants to show that the Alpine Academy works. I think Gasly and Doohan can actually make a really good bond, and I think Gasly can easily mentor Doohan into, you know, becoming a great driver potentially. That's who I believe is going to get the Alpine seats for next season. Gasly's going to confirm to stay, and I think Jack Doohan's going to get the other seat. But the other option that I've been very much contemplating for the Alpine seat, it's actually Mick Schumacher. Now this is quite an outside pick, but Fabian's been praising Schumacher a lot recently. He said he's been a really good team player and he's just been really good to have alongside Alpine. So I think it is an outside pick, but I would look out for Mick Schumacher also potentially getting that seat for next season. Both Ricciardo and Tsunoda's contracts are up at the end of the 2024 season, and I think, you know, there could be a bit of a shift here. Tsunoda has already said that he's staying loyal and is happy to be at VCARB, but he also is assessing other options elsewhere. And with Ricciardo's recent performances, certainly against Tsunoda, it could also see him being replaced at VCARB. So, do I think both drivers leave? Do I think both drivers get replaced? No. I'm also contemplating to say that they both will also stay, but I'm not going to say that just yet. I do think Tsunoda will sign at least a minimum 1-year deal at VCarb. I mean, VCarb are certainly doing a good job right now. And in 4 races in a row, Tsunoda has actually got points for VCarb. He's been brilliant to watch this season, and I think it will continue next season as well. So I think Tsunoda does stay and sign a contract for at least a 1-year deal. Now, I think it comes down to 2 other drivers who can potentially get the other seat during the 2025 season. You got on one hand, Lawson. On the other hand, Ricciardo. Now, obviously, Ricciardo's recent performances has not been good. I mean, compared to Tsunoda, Tsunoda's been absolutely washing Daniel Ricciardo this season. There's no other way to really put it. The reason why I think Daniel Ricciardo might stay at VCarb or RB is because he brings in so many sponsors and he's such a big name to the sport that he brings in loads of money for the team that to potentially, you know, grow into a better car. I also think that Daniel Ricciardo obviously has really good links with Red Bull, and I could even see them replacing Perez with Ricciardo at the end of the 2025 season. But I just don't see Daniel Ricciardo improving enough to be able to stay at the team. And the other obviously option I said about was Liam Lawson. Now, I'm a bit confused on what they want to do with Liam Lawson. I mean, the guy drove brilliantly when Daniel Ricciardo was away, but they don't seem to want to give him a seat. And as Helmut Marko's already kind of leaked by accident, if Lawson doesn't get a confirmed seat at one of the Red Bull teams, being either Red Bull or RB, then he can basically move anywhere else he wants. He's no longer obligated to stay at the Red Bull team. But I do think they're going to place him in the seat for the 2025 season. I think a Lawson-Tsunoda lineup could absolutely light fireworks in the midfield and potentially even push Aston Martin and Mercedes if they don't really improve drastically quickly. Now, Haas has been a bit of a funny team this season. I obviously, by myself, predicted that they would finish rock bottom at the end, by the end of the season. I think no one really expected how good Haas has been this season. I mean, so far this season, Haas has secured 7 points, which I don't think anyone even expected them to get by the end of the season, let alone at the current state of the season. But obviously, Hulkenberg is already confirmed to leave at the end of the season to join the Sauber team for 2025, obviously who will become Audi in the 2026 season. So, what do I think is going to happen at Haas? I think it's going to be a massive revamp at Haas. I think Kevin Magnussen will not stay at Haas for next season. Haas has already been confirmed to looking at multiple drivers to be in the team. One's pretty much already confirmed. It's already like 99% confirmed. We're just waiting for that magic F1 graphic. That person who I think is going to replace Hulkenberg, and I think will get that seat, is Ollie Behrman. Ollie Behrman's already proved how good he can be in an F1 car. He did great at the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix when he had that chance at Ferrari, getting a 7th position and beating the likes of Norris and Hamilton in the race. And he's already had multiple practice sessions with Haas this season, and I think it's a no-brainer for him to get called up. Now, I did say that Kevin Magnussen, I don't believe, will keep his seat for next season. The person who I believe is going to join Haas is a certain person that has just left a certain team called Alpine, and I believe that Esteban Ocon will join the Haas team for 2025. Obviously, Ocon has been pretty much hated on recently for basically being a horrible teammate, and I'm not going to necessarily disagree. But yes, I do believe that Haas will sign Esteban Ocon for next season. Ocon's already confirmed on his social media that he'll announce his plans very soon, and I think that he will fill the void that will be Kevin Magnussen once Kevin Magnussen does confirm to leave Haas. And I think this is a great role for Ocon. He can be the #1 driver in a team, and it basically forces him to be a good teammate. He has to coach this young kid, Ollie Behrman, and he has to coach him well. He can't, coach him to basically crash into everyone, and he basically has to help him and mentor him to become a better F1 driver. So yes, I think the Haas partnership could be Esteban Ocon and Ollie Behrman. Now, there's 2 teams left. We have Mercedes and Sauber/Audi. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm kind of going to announce them at the same time, because at Mercedes, we obviously know Russell will basically be the #1 driver there from now on. But there's 2 drivers who I think could potentially get the seat. And I've been very backwards and forth, but I think as of recently, I've very much switched my mind. Those drivers are once again Carlos Sainz and a 17-year-old Kimi Antonetti. I was originally very certain that Sainz would take the seat, but as of recently, I've very much switched up. I think Mercedes are going to take this big gamble and go with this 17-year-old potential sensation in the F1 world in Kimi. He's already had multiple practice days at Mercedes and is said to be quite competitive with Russell on times on the long stints. And he's going to have another one coming up soon, again, along with Mick Schumacher. I don't think it's a coincidence as to why Toto Wolff has been hyping him up so much recently and giving him so many practice days, because they're going to take the gamble. I don't think Toto Wolff wants the same thing to happen all over again like it did with Max Verstappen. So yes, I'm going to go with Mercedes. It's going to be Russell and an 18-year-old Kimi Antonelli for the 2025 season. Now, leave your comments down below what you think of that. Or do you think they should go with someone like Sainz or potentially Ocon for the seat for at least a season and then go with Kimi? This brings me on to the final team, which is Sauber/Audi. And this also leads me on to where I think Carlos Sainz will eventually end up going. I think Sauber will end up having a team of Hulkenberg and Carlos Sainz for the 2025/2026 season when they do become Audi. This is going to be a bit upsetting for a lot of F1 fans and especially Carlos Sainz fans. We were all expecting to potentially get a second seat at Red Bull or that Mercedes seat, but I think both those opportunities are gone now. So that basically leaves Williams, Alpine or Sauber. Now, obviously, if you're looking at it for just next season, Sauber's probably the worst option there could be. I mean, they are a literal tractor of a car. I mean, Williams and Alpine, I mean, I know they're both not doing strong, but I believe they have a bit more potential than the Sauber car. But I think the reason why Carlos Sainz would rather go to Sauber is because of that 2026 move they're going to make to become Audi. I think Sainz could become this big leader of a big project coming up. And obviously, it's a big risk. Audi might not even be that good, but there's such a big name, and I believe they're going to pump so much money into F1 that, yes, I think Audi will become a very solid car for the 2026 season. I'm not saying, obviously, going to win anything, but I believe they'll always be there in a solid points position and maybe even a few podiums. So, yes, I think the reason why Sainz will go to Sauber is because of that change they're going to make in 2026. Mercedes has said to only offer him a one-year deal, and Sainz obviously wants a long-term future at a team, so I don't think Mercedes is ever going to really work out. But yeah, I think their team will be Hulkenberg and Sainz, and I think for development purposes, you can't really get much better. There's a lot of experience there. There will be a big graph on the screen that will show my predictions of what I think the teams will be. I'm going to announce some of the drivers that I don't think will be here next season, and that will be Ricciardo, Zhou Guanyu, unfortunately, but I just don't see anything from him. He's not improving. He's miles off the pace of Bottas at the moment. I just can't see him keeping that seat at Sauber at all, or any other team right now. Logan Sargent, I don't think is going to be here. I can't see Kevin Magnussen staying. I think he's made too many mistakes this season. Inadvertently took out his own teammate at the Monaco Grand Prix, and I just think he's racing really dangerously this season. So yeah, those are my 2025 transfer market predictions. A lot of crazy stuff is going to happen. I mean, none of them could end up true anyway. We could see Sainz at Red Bull, we could see Kimi at Williams, we could see Ocon at Mercedes, I don't know. There's a lot of rumours going around out there, but those are what are my current thoughts. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. A bit of a longer one than expected, but yeah, I wanted to discuss my thoughts on the matter, as a lot of drivers are already moving, so I thought it'd be an appropriate first video to make. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below if you agree with what I said, or do you think anything else will happen in the transfer market? But remember, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.